us all together. Lord, we gather in your name as children of a sovereign God. Forever we proclaim, to God be all glory.
Well, good morning. How you doing? It is Wednesday, September the 10th, 2025. Welcome to episode 438 of The Thinking Theologian as we continue our journey through the scriptures. So today we read Ezekiel chapter 37 through 39. The title of today is The Word of the Lord is Powerful. The focal scripture is in Ezekiel 37 verse 4. And this is what it says. It says, He said to me, prophesy concerning these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. So today we're talking about the Valley of Dry Bones. It's the vision Ezekiel gets, one of the most powerful and compelling visions in the Old Testament. And so we're going to look at it from a different, not to say different perspective, but we're going to look at it from the Lord's perspective as far as how he's speaking instead of what Ezekiel was actually seeing, even though we will talk about that some. So today, having something to say is very important. So I'm not sure of any person who does not like to be listened to and heard when they speak about life's events. If you have something to say, it matters to you and you want it to come across and you want people to listen to you because you want to say it if it didn't. Being ignored, it can get really frustrating when you feel like you're not being heard. If you have exciting news, you want people to know. You share it with everyone you come in contact with during the day. However, it is often not just the news that is important, but the person that the news comes from that sets the stage. So sometimes you can get really important news, but often the person who delivers the news or how they deliver it is almost more important than actually the news that you get. In most cases, in some cases, I'm not going to say most, in some cases. And so you can hear the same news from two different people and have two different reactions. And so you can hear the same story from two different people and have completely different reactions because of the delivery, the intent, the passion, the gravitas of the person. However that may look, there's a different reactions depending on who's giving the information. So in today's reading, we come to the vision of dry bones. Ezekiel is asked if these dry bones can live again. And he responds that only the Lord knows the answer to that question. He's asked, Son of man, can these bones live? And he says, Lord, only you know. Then Ezekiel is given direct instruction from the Lord. He is told to speak to the bones. He's like, hey, you speak to the bones. You do what I'm telling you to do. You're not sure what can happen. I'm going to tell you what to do and just do what I'm asking you to do. He tells them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Now, notice what it doesn't say here. It doesn't say dry bones, hear the word of Ezekiel. It says dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. And this is important because the messenger is more important than the message. Because again, you can give the same message, but the person delivering the message of where it ultimately comes from is the most important. And especially in this context. So the words he is speaking comes directly from the mouth of God. It's not Ezekiel's words. It's word that God is delivering to Ezekiel that he wants it to be said to the dry bones. So there's a lot to unpack in this story and in this verse. However, the most important piece of information is that the Lord's words are powerful. It's not Ezekiel's words that are bringing life back. It's the Lord's words. It's not Ezekiel's words that make the dry bones live. It is the perfect and powerful words of the Lord that bring life. And that's what we must know in what we do through life. We don't bring salvation. The words of the Lord bring salvation. He brings salvation. In our reading through Ezekiel, he has prophesied powerful judgments and intense salvation for the people. He is a spokesperson that regurgitates what he hears to the nation. So God says this, Ezekiel regurgitates it. He says what he's been told to say. He's a spokesperson. He's a watchman. He is a prophet for the Lord. And he's saying, this is what's going to be said. This is what's going to happen. Ezekiel knows where the power comes from and how prophecies are fulfilled. They're not fulfilled because of him. They're fulfilled because the Lord said they're going to happen. He knows that he is just a vessel that is being used by God. That is important, that any prophet, any preacher, anybody who speaks on behalf of God is understanding that they are a spokesperson for God and that he is the one that gets the glory, not the person speaking, not the person preaching. Too many preachers want to be the most important person on the stage, on the platform. they're doing. They want to be the most important person. They want to be recognized for what they're doing instead of realizing that it's the word of the Lord that's more important than anything they have to say. And this is why you have joke tellers. This is why you have people that just, to be honest with you, it's an embarrassment to listen to them try to proclaim the word because they speak about everything else other than the word. They attack people, they attack situations, they attack cultural things, and not because of a biblical thing, but because they disagree with them politically or something like that. And it is just an awful thing to witness. Instead of saying, "Thus saith the Lord," they're like, "This is my opinion and this is my time to shine." And it's very difficult to listen to when people do that. And so through Ezekiel, we'll see that he is giving the words of the Lord, not his own opinion. And so the takeaway for us as believers is to make sure we speak what God tells us to speak. And we've been told certain things to speak. We're told that he is the way to heaven, that he is the only way for people to be redeemed, that he is the one who gets the glory. We are servants of the Lord Most High, and it's not our job to be brought up in a way, or my mind's blank for what I'm looking for. It is to be promoted ourselves as we try to speak about the word of the Lord. It's all about God, who he is and how he works, not about us. But to many people, it's always about us. It's always about what's going on. And I've been guilty of it in my younger days, especially. I'm not going to say I've never done it since then, but when I was younger, first called in the ministry and learning how to preach, I made it more about me than about the word of the Lord. And this is why rarely do I go into personal stories or other stories. Illustrations, yes, to get a point through, but rarely do I make it about other things or attack other people or talk about this. Or it's just, you could always tell a person who's unprepared that wants to be about them instead of the word of the Lord. The word of the Lord is sufficient. And if you cannot preach about what the text says, then you need to do some more study and be prepared. I know that sounds horrible, what I just said, and that sounds probably a pretty arrogant statement, but there are too many people who don't know how to rightly divide the word of truth that stand in pulpits that have no business being in pulpits, and they need to study more to show themselves approved. Someone who doesn't need to be ashamed. And you can always tell a person who's in tune with God and in tune with themselves. So that was a side note. So that's a pet peeve of mine, side note. And so the takeaway for us as believers is to make sure we speak. I chased a rabbit there, sorry. The takeaway for us believers is to make sure we speak what God tells us to speak. Life change happens because of God's words, not because of my words. Death is brought to life because God said it would happen. Salvation takes place because God decreed it to happen. God is the one with divine power, not Ezekiel, not you, and not me. God is the one who changes lives. Now, we have divine power through Christ, but it's not me doing the work. It is Christ in me doing the work. So we hold no power except to declare Christ victorious. Your pastor is to declare God's truth, not his opinion. You are to shower others with divine love and unescapable truth. Biblical words heal and bring hope. They also bring judgment and salvation. Biblical words do everything at one time. God's words make the difference, not man's interpretation. Know the difference and apply it to every situation you find yourself. I promise you it will make a difference. It will make a difference in how you approach the word when you read, how you approach church, how you listen to preachers proclaim. It changes everything when you understand the word of the Lord is powerful, not the person that's doing it. And we as people who speak on behalf of God, we are not the ultimate messenger. We are the regurgitator. We are the one that takes what we've been told in Scripture and gives it back to the people. So ultimately, it is God's words who are spoken, not ours. And when we start in putting our own opinion or our own twist on things and make it about us, we lose everything instead of making the focus on the word. The word should be the focus and the priority between everything we do in salvation. When we're talking about salvation, when a preacher is preaching and teaching, it should all be about with the Lord and not about other things. And I know the other way is more advantageous sometimes and more popular, and people like it. But it needs to be stopped because we're not doing what God's called us to do. The preaching of the word is serious business, and we are spokesmen for the word, and we are spokesmen for the Lord, and we're to represent him and how he does things. So hopefully that makes sense. Be encouraged by that and understand if you're not doing that, you need to be challenged to do that. Tomorrow will be in Ezekiel chapters 40 through 42.